Hey guys, what's up? It's Rygar the Destroyer, and today we're going to be taking a look at Jaime Lannister from the Game of Thrones Legacy Collection by Funko. This guy is a pretty cool looking figure, but before we take a closer look at him, let's go ahead and take a look at his packaging. Here it is. It's pretty standard for the Game of Thrones figures. It's got the clear window here in the front, the Lannister, I guess, crest or insignia here, his name, and then a window here on the side. On this side, just another picture here. And then on the back, it's got a picture of the actor from the show, and then the other figures that were released in this line. So like I said, pretty standard packaging for this line, so let's go ahead and take a look at the figure itself. So here he is. He stands at about 6¼ inches tall, which in my opinion puts him right in scale with the other figures. He does come with one accessory here, and that is his sword. As you just saw, you can place it in his scabbard, which is nice. As far as the sword goes, it's pretty well detailed. The sculpt work down here is a little bit soft in my opinion for the lion's head. But that's just because of the size. If you see here is my finger, so sculpting something super detailed at that size is pretty difficult, so I don't really blame them for having a soft sculpt there. As far as the blade goes, it's fairly basic. It's got just some silver paint work on there, and all the paint work on here is fairly clean, especially for the size, so I don't have any complaints about that. As far as the figure goes, it looks absolutely fantastic. It's hard to tell on my camera, but it's not super shiny. The only reason it's looking like that is because I've got very harsh lighting on there, but it is metallic paint, which looks very similar to the way it does in the show. All of the kind of engraved parts on there are really well done. The cape is well sculpted, but I do have a problem with that I'll talk about here in a second. But just overall, the figure looks fantastic, and the face sculpt, in my opinion, is right on. They definitely captured the kind of like smug look that he's got on his face most of the time. Really cool looking figure overall, so definitely on a shelf just standing there, it's got the appeal. As far as posing though, I've mentioned this in all of my Game of Thrones figure reviews. It's kind of not well done. Like, it's technically there, but it's very difficult to use any of it. So let's go ahead and run through that. He's got a double ball peg in the head, which works fine. I don't have any complaints there. They've done the hair in a soft rubber piece that's been glued onto the head, so it doesn't really get in the way of the articulation, which I appreciate. And it also looks really nice too. They've done a nice job there. The shoulders, there's not a whole lot they could have done to save the sculpt there. They did sculpt the shoulders out of a soft rubber, so you have to kind of mush it into the body to get the articulation to work. I mean, honestly, these figures are not going to be posed because of how brittle the articulation is, so it doesn't really bother me that the shoulders don't work, just because I basically knew going in that the figure was going to have brittle articulation. But if the figure was less brittle overall, I would be disappointed that the shoulders only really go up that far. The elbow is a single hinge, really stiff. It does swivel, but like I said, you're basically not going to use the articulation just out of fear of it breaking. It's got a hinge in the wrist, again, really brittle. It does have a swivel in there, but you're not going to get a lot of posing done. One complaint I do have about the hands, even though they are nicely sculpted, is they're so, the plastic is so hard and it's got such a tight grip that I'm afraid to actually put the sword in his hand, because I don't want to break the sword or the figure's hand. So you're probably just going to have the sword in the scabbard if you buy this guy. He doesn't have any waist articulation that I can see. It might be there, but again, it's completely frozen on mine. He has T-jointed hips, which are impeded a little bit by the soft rubber there, but that's just the design of the character, so that doesn't really bother me. There's a thigh swivel up in there. On this side, it works fine. On this side, it's frozen. Again, you're not going to be doing a ton of posing anyway, so it's got double-jointed knees, which work well. Or they're designed to work well. In practice, they don't actually move that much. And again, I'm afraid to force it because I don't want to break the figure. He's got hinged ankles with an ankle rocker, and those work well on both sides, so I have no complaints there. And the thing I wanted to mention about the cape is it's sculpted to kind of drag on the floor, which is accurate to the TV show if you've watched it. But unfortunately, that prevents the figure from being posed dynamically because the legs, the articulation in the legs works well enough that you could potentially put this guy into a pose where his cape would drag on the floor so much that it would look weird. Like I said, you're not going to probably be doing the most posing with this guy anyway. But it's just a complaint that I have overall. So, yeah, in conclusion, I guess, if you just want to stand him there on a shelf, he will look absolutely amazing because the sculpt work and paint is fantastic. If you want a figure that you can pose, you're probably not going to like this guy. So just keep that in mind whenever you're going to buy this guy, or if you want to buy this guy, that you're not going to do any posing, but it will look nice. So it's more like a statue even though it is articulated. So anyway, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I guess I'll see you later.